Two men, same age, same city, same $50,000 saved. One becomes a landlord, one becomes an investor. 20 years later, both are wealthy, but only one of them enjoyed the journey. This is the video that finally runs every number honestly. Daniel takes his $50,000 and puts a 20% down payment on a $250,000 rental property. 3-bedroom house, decent neighborhood. 30-year mortgage at 7% interest. Monthly payment, $1,330. He finds a tenant immediately. Rent, $1,800 per month. On paper, $470 cash flow every single month. Daniel feels like a genius. He drives past that house on the way to work and thinks, I own that. Kevin takes the same $50,000, drops it into a total stock market index fund. No tenants, no keys, no story to tell at dinner. He sets up $300 automatic monthly contributions and genuinely never thinks about it again. When coworkers ask what he invests in, he says index funds. They nod politely and change the subject. Nobody is impressed. Here is what nobody in this debate ever talks about first. The feeling of these two investments could not be more different. Daniel's investment is visible, tangible, socially impressive. Kevin's investment is invisible, abstract, boring. And that difference in feeling will influence every financial decision both men make over the next 20 years. Because feelings are expensive. Year 1, Daniel is living the landlord dream. Rent hits his account on the first of every month. He is claiming mortgage interest and depreciation on his taxes, equity building with every payment, neighborhood appreciating. Everything feels real, smart, working exactly as planned. Meanwhile, Kevin logs into his account once a quarter. $50,000 became $55,000, then $61,000. Nothing exciting, just a number going quietly upward. Now, let's run the actual numbers through year 3, because this is where reality meets the spreadsheet. Daniel collected $64,800 in total rent over 3 years. His mortgage payments totaled $47,880. Gross cash flow on paper, $16,920. That is the number landlords quote at dinner parties. Here is what comes out before Daniel keeps a single dollar. Property taxes, $9,000 over 3 years. Insurance, $4,500. Water heater replacement, $1,200. Roof leak repair, $2,800. 1 month vacancy plus relisting costs, $2,400. And Daniel is managing the property himself. Late night calls, weekend repairs, lunch break contractor coordination. Zero compensation for any of that time. After every real cost, Daniel's actual net cash flow over 3 years? Somewhere between $2,000 and $4,000. Not $16,920. $2,000 to $4,000 on a $50,000 investment, not including a single hour of his time. Kevin, meanwhile, has contributed $50,000 plus $10,800 in monthly additions over 3 years. At the historical 10% average annual return for total market index funds, his portfolio sits at approximately $76,000. 0 phone calls, 0 emergencies, 0 weekends lost. But here is what Kevin does not have that Daniel does. Leverage. Daniel used $50,000 to control a $250,000 asset. After 3 years of appreciation at 3 to 4% annually, that property is now worth $270,000 to $280,000. His equity has grown to approximately $55,000 to $65,000. Real wealth, built partly using the bank's money. That 5-to-1 leverage is the single greatest advantage real estate holds over stocks. And it is exactly why this comparison is never as simple as it first appears. Now let's talk about the real estate costs that never make it onto the thumbnail. Vacancy. Average rental property sits empty roughly 1 month per year. Full mortgage payment, zero income to cover it. Every tenant turnover means cleaning costs, repair costs, listing fees, and your time. Maintenance. Budget 1 to 2% of property value annually. On a $250,000 house, that is $2,500 to $5,000 every single year. Some years it is a $200 faucet. Other years it is a $7,000 HVAC system, failing in August while your tenant threatens to leave. Capital expenditures. Roofs last 20 to 25 years. Furnaces last 15 to 20. Water heaters last 10 to 12. These are guaranteed future costs arriving in chunks of $5,000 to $15,000. If you are not saving for them monthly, you are not running an investment. You are running on luck, and luck always sends a bill. Property management. Hire a manager. That is 8 to 10% of monthly rent gone immediately. Manage it yourself. You are working a part-time job without a paycheck. Bad tenants. A tenant who knows the eviction process can cost you 3 to 6 months of lost rent, plus legal fees. One single event, erasing an entire year of profit. It happens to landlords at every experience level. None of these costs appear in the $470 monthly cash flow figure. All of them appear in the actual bank account. By year 5, Daniel is deep in landlord reality. Third tenant. Roof replaced for $8,500. Plumbing emergency, $1,400. One more vacancy month. His actual cash-on-cash return after all real expenses, hovering around 3 to 5%. Not bad, but not the 15 to 20% he described to friends. Kevin is still doing essentially nothing. His portfolio has grown to $135,000 to $150,000 by year 7. He did not pick individual stocks. He did not time the market. He simply did not touch it. Compound growth is now accelerating. The gains on his gains are generating more new wealth annually than his original contributions ever did. By year 10, Daniel's property is worth $335,000 to $350,000. Remaining mortgage balance, approximately $166,000. Equity, $170,000 to $184,000. Kevin's portfolio with consistent contributions, $165,000 to $180,000. He contributed $86,000 total. The rest is pure compounding. At year 10, they are almost identical in total wealth. But Daniel spent hundreds of hours managing his asset, carried $200,000 in debt, and concentrated everything into one property in one zip code. Kevin diversified across thousands of companies and never lost a night of sleep. By year 20, Daniel's property is worth $450,000 to $500,000. Mortgage nearly paid off. Total equity, $400,000 to $500,000. After 2 decades of maintenance, repairs, vacancies, taxes, and insurance, net profit from cash flow above expenses, $50,000 to $90,000. Kevin's portfolio at 10% average annual return with $300 monthly contributions, $420,000 to $460,000. Total contributions over 20 years, $122,000. The remaining $300,000 plus is pure compounding. No debt, no tenants, no 2 a.m. calls about a broken pipe. At year 20, they are in the same range, $400,000 to $500,000 each. But how they got there is completely different. Daniel worked for his. Kevin waited for his. Now here's the part most videos completely skip. If Kevin increased his monthly contribution by just $200, from $300 to $500 per month, His 20-year portfolio jumps to $550,000 to $600,000. In index funds, increasing your contribution has a multiplied compounding effect. In real estate, scaling usually means buying a second property, taking on a second mortgage, and doubling your workload overnight. Now, let's be equally honest about the index fund side, because a video that only covers real estate's downsides is just doing what every stock market influencer does. Volatility is real and brutal. In 2008, the total market dropped 37%. In early 2020, it dropped 34% in weeks. Watching $150,000 fall to $95,000 on a screen is gut-wrenching. Data shows most retail investors panic sell during crashes and buy back in after recovery, locking in losses at the exact worst moment. The strategy works perfectly if you hold through everything. Most people do not hold through everything. There is no monthly cash flow. Index funds do not send you a check. At one point, 5 to 2% yield on $150,000, that is roughly $200 per month. That is not replacing anyone's income. There is no leverage. Kevin used $50,000 to control $50,000 in assets. Daniel used $50,000 to control $250,000. That leverage is the primary reason real estate creates more millionaires than stocks in most wealth surveys. There is no depreciation tax shelter. Real estate investors legally deduct theoretical building decline from taxable income, even while the property appreciates in value. Stock investors simply do not have that advantage. Real estate wins clearly in specific situations. When monthly rent is at least 0.8 to 1% of purchase price, the cash flow math works from day one. When you treat it as a real business, screening tenants carefully, budgeting for capital expenditures, building systems, returns can exceed stocks. When you house hack, living in one unit while renting others, your own housing cost drops to near zero while equity builds. And when you understand 1,031 exchanges, deferring capital gains by rolling profits into new properties, you can grow a portfolio in ways stock investors cannot replicate. Real estate is not a bad investment. It is a specific investment that works exceptionally well under specific conditions that most people never verify before buying. So here is the truth nobody wants to say simply. If you have local market knowledge, time to manage a property, tolerance for illiquidity and unexpected costs, and access to a market where rent-to-price ratios support real cash flow, real estate can build wealth in ways stocks cannot match. If you want simplicity, diversification, liquidity, zero management time, and the ability to scale without added complexity, index fund investing will build comparable or superior long-term wealth with a fraction of the stress. And if you can do both, owning strong rental property while consistently investing in index funds, the math on that combination changes everything. The most important question you can ask about any investment is not which one wins on average, it is this: did you include everything? Because the answer that includes everything is the only answer that actually matters. If this gave you a clearer picture, hit like. It takes 1 second and it helps more people find honest content. Subscribe for weekly breakdowns with real math and no agenda. And drop a comment. Are you team real estate, team index funds, or doing both? See you in my next video.